This is your last chance to get our They's Aliens merch in the store. It's going away in a couple days, and it will be replaced by a new limited time drop. So if you have not checked it out yet and you'd like to, head to wehaveconcernstore.com. I spun around 3 times and spit in the dirt. And now I declare bankruptcy. This is We Have Concerns. Hi, Jeff Ganata.
Hi, Anthony Carboni.
Hello, concerned citizens.
Anthony, we've spoken at length.
We've spoken at length. I would say that you and I have spoken at length.
At length. You know, it's honestly, we need to give it a rest.
Honestly, over it. Honestly, too much length.
Yeah. Let's go for width now.
Honestly, anyway, let's speak as wide as we can. What does that mean?
We've mostly, I think, during the pre-show segments, which of course patrons are able to listen to as full episodes on their own. But mostly in the pre-show segments, we've focused on the fact that you and I both have a sweet tooth. We love the sweets. We love the cookies. We love the ice cream. We love the delicious treats.
We love the canceled Netflix television series Sweet Tooth. We love the comic book Sweet Tooth, which it was based on. We love the character Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal. Also probably canceled. Everything's canceled, right?
Canceled, yes.
No shows are coming back, right?
No shows are coming back at this point.
But we do have sweet tooths, sweet teeths. Sweeter teethers is what we call ourselves. And
we are the Sweet Teeth Society. What is your stance on salty? Are you a salty snacker?
Well, I mean, sure, but I don't seek it out. Like I do love, I try to keep some balanced snackies here in the house because of my sweet tooth. Mm-hmm. I'm not allowed to keep sweets in the house. I don't do it. Because if I do, that stuff gets eaten immediately and first. That'll be like, so I'll have like a pint of ice cream, and I'll also have trail mix and fruit and vegetables and all kinds of good stuff. And I will just be like, well, clearly this ice cream is my next 2 meals.
Right.
It's easy. Right. It's in the container. I can simply eat it. And then what I do is like, okay, well, that was your ice cream. You bought that. You were supposed to eat it over the period of a week. Yeah, sure. Or I could eat it all at once. And then all the other food that I bought to eat over the period of this week, I'll eat that too. It doesn't matter. As long as all the food gets eaten in a week, right? And sometimes I buy more ice cream first. Yeah. And that doesn't matter either, because shut up.
I also don't like to keep sweets in the house, but mostly because I need motivation to just get out sometimes.
That's the other thing, right? Is I bought myself the stuff to make my little sweet, not a coffee, not allowed to have a coffee, but I bought the stuff to make my little sweet drink, and I found that I just didn't go outside anymore. Because I didn't have to walk to the coffee shop. and the dog just looked at me like, what is going on here? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it's Silent Hill the room in here now. And maybe that's fine. I don't know.
Maybe that's our new normal, you know?
But as far as salty stuff, like I do like to keep a trail mix in the house. But salty.
But you're not like a Pringles, Doritos, salty snack, you know.
No, I've got some tortilla chips sometimes, but that stuff tends to go last. Like I do the tortilla chips after the little baby carrots is gone.
Yeah,
you know.
When you go to a restaurant or something, do you often think stuff is oversalted? Are you that guy?
Well, here's what I will say to you, Jeff. As far as snacky, no, but as far as eaty foodie. Here's what I'll tell you. I, for the last week, have been eating some Katz's Deli, which was shipped to me by my mother because it was my birthday and I got COVID again.
Happy birthday, happy COVID again.
Every year I get birthday and COVID. And it's just a little tradition. It's just a little birthday tradition. Is I either like to have COVID or get in a car accident or both on my birthday. It's just a little thing that I like to do for myself.
Yeah.
To
you
celebrate
treat yourself on your birthday.
Yeah,
you know?
just to celebrate the passage of time, really. And so she sent me a box of Katz's Delicatessen. And of course, Katz's is all corned beef and pastrami, which is heavily salted and cured. It is matzo ball soup, which is very salty. Potato knish, salty as fuck. What I'm basically saying is I'm Jewish, Jeff, and we do a lot of salt.
But that doesn't offend your sensibilities. You're not gonna be like, oh, no, that's a little too salty for me.
I tend to think that most things these days are undersalted because people are a little too sensitive to salt. You get that thing, when you watch the Food Network shows and the chefs are always judging the other chefs and they're like, a little bit of salt would have fixed this. It's just a little underseasoned. I feel like a lot of American cuisine is underseasoned for safety's sake. I think that's what makes it palatable to most people.
It's that Gen Z and their woke culture with they're so sensitive to
Why
everything.
are they? Listen,
Salt.
I'm tired of their pronouns and their salt. And no, I don't want to talk about the fact that I just used they twice as pronouns. And no, I don't want to talk about anything else. I just want life to be the way that I want it, and I don't want to talk about it. I'm Bill Maher, and I'm not going on strike.
Put some salt in some stuff. Gen Z,
if you dare, and get it. And hey, stop getting your lattes and buy a house already.
I am definitely a person that is a little more sensitive to salt.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed when I moved here to Colorado from Los Angeles that it felt like just the average salt content of foods that I would purchase at restaurants was higher.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, everything is too salty here. Feels like everything is, I don't know if that was my perception or I don't know, the altitude, who knows what was going on with me, or if it's legit that just this region is a little saltier. I don't know.
Now,
it's the salt of the earth up here.
Now, here's what's interesting, Jeff. When you say you don't know if it was the high altitude, perception of salty and sweet drops as you get higher altitude. That's why airplane food tastes so bland, and they actually like over salt it and stuff to try to make it not bland. But 30% of your taste drops at high altitude. So things should be less salty to you.
That's why I've stopped being fashionable. Just my taste at altitude here in Denver is just gone.
It's just gone. Yeah. So so things are a little too salty in Denver, because I would have thought that I would have expected Colorado, and I don't know why. I think I just think, if I'm honest, I just think white. I think
it's just bland.
I just think white people. I think white people.
Snow,
I think white people who like to ski, and I think
white-capped mountains.
Yeah, just like white people who buy 4-wheel drive things and like to ski, and I just think they probably don't like their food seasoned as much as we do in LA.
Subaru of flavors.
Yeah, you're living in a Subaru flavor zone, whereas like I'm in Los Angeles where we like flavor. So I would think that it would be less salty there.
Not my experience, but I am somebody that tends to undersalt. Like when I cook, I put in very little salt.
Mm-hmm.
I just am a person that tends to be pretty sensitive to salt. I like a salty chip here and there, but salt has never been my kink.
Mm-hmm.
Today we're going to talk a little bit about the flavor of salt. We did an episode a while back, if you recall, about sour and how we perceive the sour sensation.
Mm-hmm.
As you know, there are 5 distinct tastes that our tongue can detect:
wind,
sweet,
water, air, fire, and heart.
Love. Love is the fifth sensation.
It's the fifth element.
It's sweet, sour, bitter, savory, and salty. And this is an article in The Atlantic that was written by writer Amber Dance. It was sent to us by a new or a person that I haven't seen their name before. Pretty Good Omen.
Whoa!
In the Discord.
Welcome, new challenger.
Omen. Yeah, thanks for sending in this story. And thanks for submitting. Anybody can submit stories on our Discord, sending us an email to wehaveconcerns@gmail.com. We love getting stories from folks.
We love getting stories, and we mostly just read them off the Discord.
It's true.
Listen,
It's true.
listen. You can email them to wehaveconcernshow@gmail.com. There's a subreddit at We Have Concerns, but we mostly read the Discord, and that's patreon.com/wehaveconcerns.
Indeed. It's only $1 a month. Anyway, this is all about the mystery behind how we sense saltiness in foods, because there's been over 40 years of intense study on this, and we still haven't quite figured it out.
What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean we haven't quite figured it out? This is one of those stories where when they say scientists just don't know, I feel like we know a lot, and there's like a bit of it that the scientists want to know. Like, I feel like we know to the point where the average person would be pretty satisfied with our amount of knowledge is what I'm saying. But scientists probably have like a real question about it. That's like, man, let me tell you something. We can't figure out this one reaction in the body. Yeah, but we know every other part of it. Yeah, but this part's real weird. Yeah, I'll admit that it's weird. You're right, Dave. It's weird.
Damn scientists and their high bar of knowledge and understanding.
Yeah, I bet when we go through this article and you explain it to me, I feel pretty good about my knowledge by the end of this about how tasting salt works. I bet that the average person just does one of the cartoon, like slaps their hands together and walks away whistling. You know what I mean?
Well, let's break it down.
All right.
We'll step through it, and then at the end, you can tell me whether you feel like you understand exactly all you need to know for the rest of your life about salt.
Wait, Jeffrey Kanata, hold on a second. Are you an Atlantic subscriber?
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. What a cultured gentleman you are.
Hey.
Because I'm over here on my computer showing this thing as B-roll for the people who have the video version. And it says, hey, sign in, get an account, subscribe to The Atlantic.
Here's what happens, Anthony. The fine folks who listen to our show, who subscribe and post things on the Discord, they point us at interesting articles, and I find myself intrigued, curious, and I click on the thing, and then all of a sudden there's that paywall, and I go, you know what? For the people, for the folks that support us, I'm going to transfer some of their dollars to some other places so that I can understand what the heck they thought was interesting.
And yet here I am, whenever the same thing happens to me, spending 40 minutes to find the one guy on Reddit that's posted it without the paywall.
Each have our...
And then if I don't find it, maybe I do another story that week.
All right, let's get into it, because the first thing I think that is fascinating about the salty sensation in our mouths, in our brains, is that there are actually two different salt receptors. There's two different... So, we say we have 5 tastes in our mouth: sweet, sour, bitter, savory, and salty. But we actually technically have 6, because salt is divided into 2 camps.
One of them always tells the truth, and one of them always lies.
Yeah. And how can you possibly... The riddle is, how do you find out which one's which? You eat an entire bag of Doritos.
Yeah. And you're like, was that salty? Was that salty? Which side says yes? And the answer is no, because Cool Ranch isn't salty. That's a different flavor that was made in a lab.
That's right. It's cool and ranchy.
That's the 7th part of the tongue, is Cool Ranch.
The ranch.
Not just
That's
ranch.
The Hidden Valley Ranch.
Not just ranch. Ranch fits into a normal one. Cool Ranch activated a part of the tongue that scientists had never seen before. Yeah. Why don't you talk about that, The Atlantic?
How come nobody else is picked up on Cool Ranch? Did they copyright Cool Ranch over at the...
They must have. They must have copyrighted the phrase Cool Ranch, because I feel like there are a lot of things that taste similar to Cool Ranch, but like I think most other flavors have to call Cool Ranch Southwestern of some kind. But but you're right. It's not quite the same. There's a zing to the Cool Ranch.
There's a zing.
There's a little bit of zing. But I'm not even a Cool Ranch guy. I'm a nacho cheesier guy.
Oh, I could go Cool Ranch any day of the week.
Really? I'll take a Cool Ranch if it's available, but I will always pick a nacho cheesier.
I'm legitimately conflicted anytime I'm confronted with that Dorito question. Do you want the nachos or do you want the Cool Ranch? I could go either way. I oftentimes will go Cool Ranch.
Huh.
Given the option. Yeah.
Cool Ranch. Well, there you go. So what's the difference between these two salty versions of our taste?
Well, there is one series of receptors that identify the, is that enough salt? That, ooh, that's a tasty amount of salt. Ooh, that's the good. I got enough salt.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then there is
it's enough slices.
Yes. There is a separate set of receptors that set off alarm bells when it is too salty. So there's one that is like, yeah, you got enough salt. And there's another that is, this is way too salty. This actually turns into yuck, disgusting.
So one
Denver
of them
style.
one of them is literally always like, yeah, this is a good amount of salt.
Well, it's the craving, I want more salt part.
Right.
And then there's another that is the,
so one of them's like
too much.
One of them's always like, no, you can do more.
Yeah.
So really the one doesn't do anything except say yum yum. And then the other one goes, that's enough. So like
it's the attractive side and the rejective side. It's
so if one of them isn't working, you could just literally pour salt into your mouth.
That's right. And we're going to get into that. So this makes sense because unlike the other flavor profiles that we've discussed, salt is sort of essential as a ingredient for certain body functions, but too much of it and you die. Right. Which is a little different than sour or bitter or, bitter is there to prevent you from eating rancid stuff that could kill you.
Yeah.
Sure. But
or various poisons.
Right. But bitter isn't like, oh, you need some bitter, but too much bitter is bad. Salt is in that weird Goldilocks zone of you need some because we want to, be able to move your blood through your body.
Mm-hmm.
You want to, you want to prevent muscle cramps. You want to prevent nausea.
You don't want to lose moisture too quickly. All of the things that salt does.
Exactly. But if you get too much, then all of a sudden your blood thickens. You hold on to water because you've got too much salt in your blood, in your body, and your blood gets overly salty, and then the extra fluid volume raises your blood pressure, and you get strained on your arteries, and all of a sudden you're having a heart attack potentially.
Sure, Jeff, can I tell you something?
Yeah,
we've only been talking about this for like 5 minutes, and I got a potato knish in my fridge, like a heat up your own potato knish in the oven, like. And I wish I'd put it in the oven before we started recording because I really want potato knish now.
You could have timed that out perfectly.
Oh my God. I could have been knishing, dude. I'm wishing I'm knishing.
You were on a mission. Could have been knishing.
Okay. Can I tell you something? Number one, I want that on a t-shirt. I'm wishing I'm knishing. And number two, I think I've told you about this shirt before, my Lot Kabash shirt that I had when I was a kid. Did I tell you about the Lot Kabash?
Yeah.
I think that would be a great companion shirt for my Lot Kabash shirt. I'm wishing I'm knishing.
For those days when you need to wear two shirts and people are related, a good companion shirt.
Well,
not enough people pair their shirts, Anthony. I see somebody in a shirt and I think, what shirt would go with that if they were, I don't know, to change clothes midday and have a second shirt?
Jeff, you don't understand. I literally just did something like this for the bit. You don't understand, Jeff. I have a sweatshirt that has artwork of Bart Simpson anamorphing into Garfield. But then I bought a t-shirt. So when I take off the sweatshirt, I'm also wearing a t-shirt of Bart Simpson anamorphing into Garfield.
This is why you haven't left Los Angeles, because you haven't lost your taste. You still have good taste. The good taste to double up on the t-shirt bit.
Jeff, I'll do it. I'll wear a Wishing for Knishin sweater, and then I'll take that off and I'll have a Lot Kabash t-shirt underneath. I don't fuck around, dude.
We got to make that happen. All right. So we know that our bodies have these special proteins that allow sodium to cross nerve membranes for the purpose of sending nerve impulses. So we can sense the sodium in the content. So we know how we sense sodium, but we don't really understand, or we hadn't understood what exactly, where in the body, what place on our tongues, what exact molecules are sensing salt and how that works, right? So in the 80s, there were these scientists that were experimenting with a drug that prevents sodium from entering kidney cells.
Oh.
So what did they do? Yeah. So what did they do with this drug? Well, they put a little dollop onto rat tongues. And they realized, this doesn't just prevent sodium from penetrating the membrane of cells in kidneys. It also impedes rats' abilities to taste salt when they put it on their tongues.
Oh, no. Well, that's a problem.
Because it turns out that this molecule that it affects, that exists in the kidney cells, has a really long name that I'm not going to attempt, but people call it ENaC. ENaC. ENaC.
That's also the evil computer that thought it was Batman.
Yeah. I can see how that might be confusing.
I know. And
that evil computer also salted the water resources of Gotham.
Listen, there are 100 people at least who have beards like ours, who look like us, who are screaming, "It was Hardak. It was Hardak." And we know that. We know that.
It's a bit. ENaC sucks extra sodium from the blood and helps, maintain the salt level in your kidneys. It's there to do that. But it turns out that because it worked on the tongue, because inhibiting ENaC from working on the tongue suggested, hey, there's ENaC on the taste buds as well. That's the thing. That's what's doing it.
Yeah. What did this do to the rats, though? Did the rats feel like it was supposed to stop?
They just weren't interested in salty things. They couldn't taste the salty stuff that they were usually drawn to.
Oh, and they stopped craving it?
Well, you know how scientists work, Anthony. They're like, we could take the little dropper and we could put the little dropper of our salty taste inhibiting drug onto the tongues. Or we could just genetically engineer some rats and some mice to not have ENaC at all. We could just really fuck up some rats. Yeah. Fuck up some mice up in here.
You can see here how sad a human and a rat are when they don't have ENaC. I found an illustration for our video listeners, and look at how just bored these saltless fucks look.
Yes. So when we genetically engineered ENaC out of mice, they lost their preference for salty stuff.
Did they wind up having major health issues though because they weren't getting enough salt?
Oh, they all died. They all died.
But all rats do die. That's why it's okay to experiment on them.
All rats go to heaven is my understanding.
Well, that's actually we haven't proven that. But we do know that we can kill them, and we can kill a lot of them.
A lot of them. That's what the scientists tell their little science kids.
Yeah.
At night, all the mice go to heaven.
Sure.
So this was in 2010. This confirmed that ENaC is the good salt receptor. We figured it out.
Okay.
Now, then they were like, well, where is the ENaC in the mouth, on the tongue? Where, what's going on? Where is it in the brain? Well, how's the ENaC being triggered? Yeah. Well, it turns out ENaC is made up of 3 different pieces: the E, the N, and the AC. Of course.
Goodbye, everybody.
This is a award-winning science podcast. Yeah. And that is found. The 3 different pieces are found in various places of the mouth, but scientists had a hard time finding any cells that contained all 3 pieces of ENaC. You know how you go on a quest to find all 3 pieces of ENaC?
Right. The 1 piece is real, and the 3 pieces are even realer.
Yeah. You got to combine them. And then that's how you get the Master Sword.
Yeah, that was the last. We all saw the last Indiana Jones movie. We know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You got to find the pieces of ENAC.
Yeah, in 2020, some scientists at the Kyoto Prefectural University of Medicine in Japan, our favorite place.
We love them.
The KPUM.
We love them because they're so close to the new Nintendo museum that's opening up.
I mean, you can swing by the Nintendo museum, check out some sick amiibo prototypes.
Yeah.
And then you just swing over to the Kyoto Prefecture University of Medicine and see some genetically modified mice.
Oh, man.
Getting murdered.
Stop on the way and get a matcha. And I'm telling you, bud, that's a day.
That's a day.
Sponsored by the Kyoto Tourism Board.
So they found out in 2020 that, they thought that these sodium sensing cells would spark an electrical signal in the brain of mice, but not if the ENAC blocker was there. So ENAC blocked up some mice, and they found, they were able to isolate this population of cells inside the taste buds that had all three components of the ENAC sodium channel. So we figured it out. We found out where the good salt spot is on our tongue. We know it. We figured it out. Case closed.
Great. Is there a specific, so on my tongue, where is the region where the good salt is?
Article doesn't go into that, so I don't know exactly.
That's so stupid, article. Article, all anybody wants to know when you say there's a part of your tongue that's for good salt, all we want is a little arrow that points to the tongue and says, this is where the good salt is. What's the matter? I can
stick the chip right on it.
Can't believe, you just put the chip you apply it directly. Yeah. Hey, The Atlantic, Jeff Cannata just signed up for a subscription, and you're really fucking it already. Hey, The Atlantic? You were like, hey, you got to pay money to see this good article of ours. And Jeff said, ooh, this is a good article. I'm going to pay money for this article. And then opened up the article. You don't even point to where on the tongue the salt is? You fucking article?
Here's a sentence that kind of gives you a vague sense of it. It says,
when
there are enough sodium ions outside those key taste bud cells in the mid-tongue area, the ions can enter those cells using the 3-part ENAC gateway. So mid-tongue, that's all we get.
Where on the tongue does ENAC is what I just Googled. And let me tell you something.
Is it all Batman stories?
It's pretty good. Yeah, it's all Batman stories. No, look, no one's really doing this right. This one just says the tongue, a multifunctional organ. Thanks, bud. Thanks, science.
Just did an image search.
Thanks, science. You let us down again. Well, I didn't. Yeah. I looked up where on the tongue does ENAC. That's what I Googled.
It should be enough. It should be enough for science.
What else should come up with this? Nothing. Where on the tongue does ENAC, please? Should I add a please? I'll add a please. Where on the tongue does ENAC, please? I did get different results.
Yeah. Well, of course, because you're polite now.
I did get different results.
It's like I tell my kids, you're going to get different results if you use your manners.
Yeah. Do they know that that's mostly bullshit? You don't want to tell them that yet, do you?
Not yet.
Not yet.
No. Let them find that out on their own.
I found another scientific drawing of a mouse tasting something. But
yeah, that looks horrible.
Yeah, they look like they're having a bad time. Man, it's a good thing we kill all these mice and rats, because every picture of them I've ever seen in a scientific situation just looks like they're having a bad time.
Terrible time.
Rats are probably having miserable lives. It's probably a good thing that we kill them.
We put them out of their misery after creating their misery.
Listen, karma is a wheel, and there's no way to get off of it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Anyway.
So it's the middle of the tongue, basically.
Middle of the tongue. So what happens is it rebalances the sodium concentrations inside and outside the cells and redistributes the levels of positive and negative ion charges across the cell's membrane. So basically, the electrical signal inside the cell is telling the taste bud, you hit Goldilocks zone. Yummy, delicious. We love it. We love it.
Can I tell you that even though I know that most of what's happening in the body is just electrical, whenever we talk about it in terms of actual electrical terminology, it really makes me feel like I'm about to be sold some sort of quack medicine. Do you know what I mean? Like if something talks about the human body in too much of an electrical way, I feel like an influencer is trying to sell me a gadget.
Oh yeah.
I
All
feel
you
like-
need is the
I just feel like, whoa, if you want to lose all your tummy fat, it turns out that scientists found out that there's an electrical way to apply it to your ab muscles that just for a minute a day will get rid of all of the fat, and it's new and it's interesting, and it's just swipe up,
Just swipe
everybody,
up.
just swipe up. That's what it sounds like. That's the only type of ad
we don't
on
have
it.
that technology here on this podcast.
No.
We're not into swipe up territory yet.
No, this is the only type of ad that I am immune to on Instagram or TikTok are ads for health stuff because I'm just I'm a little too smart for it. But any other advertising, I'll just buy anything that I just told you that I have 2 shirts where Bart Simpson turns into Garfield.
Not too smart for that.
Where do you think I saw those? In an Instagram ad.
Yeah, he swiped up.
I'll buy anything Instagram tells me to buy. I'm an idiot. So this is where the good enough comes from.
We know, we figured it out. We dialed it in. We know where good salty taste comes from, but that leaves a giant hole in our understanding because we still don't understand too much salt signal. Okay, so what's going on there? What do scientists think is happening there? Well, as you know, salt isn't just sodium.
No.
It's sodium chloride.
It has a rich inner life.
Indeed.
You can't just
be summed up in one word.
No, if you see the salt from school, like out at the grocery store or, at the playground with their own kids or whatever, it might surprise you. But the salt that you know from school or from work has its own life.
That was what was so shocking to me when I first saw salt outside the school system. And I realized, oh my gosh, salt.
Yeah. Buying a lot of alcohol.
Is salt sad for some reason?
Why would salt be sad? You seem so happy at school.
So scientists think that possibly yummy, yummy, yummy side says, yeah, sodium. Icky, icky, icky side says, ew, chloride.
Oh, right. That makes sense, right? Because we don't want that. We don't want that chloride.
Yes. So the saltiest high salt sensation in rats was created with sodium chloride. This is the common table salt.
Mm-hmm.
And but when it was paired with when sodium was paired with other multi-atom partners,
like a chip, like some bread.
Yeah.
Or like
wash it down with a chaser.
Yeah, or you put it on like a fresh heirloom tomato. The rat loves it.
Yeah. Well, the mice thought were less salty, the rats.
Mm-hmm.
So they thought, well, hey, maybe that means that if you partner sodium, that the other half of what's going on with sodium is the most important part.
Oh.
Right.
We actually just want to chow down on some chlorine tablets, but we can't.
You can't.
They're delicious.
That's when your body's going, ew, ew, gross.
They're the forbidden wafer. And every day, my dad would throw it into the pool, and I'd just be like, I'm going to eat one of those. And he's like, don't you do it. You'll get sick. And I was like, but the youths crave the chloride, father.
Yeah.
We crave the chlorine.
That's why you always open your mouth while you're swimming.
Because I want all that chlorine. Jeff.
Yeah.
I do get the feeling that this is one of these weeks that I'm digressing too much for you, but I don't give a shit.
No. Do you ever though?
No, but this week I particularly don't. When I was a kid, we had a pool, humble brag. And we had the floating chlorine thing. My dad had the floating chlorine that would just like slowly release the chlorine over the day. And I thought for whatever reason, it looked like a cool future bomb.
Oh, yeah. No, it does. With the different colors and everything.
Yeah. So it was floating in the pool and it had chlorine in it. And I started playing with it like it was future. I was picking it up and I was throwing it and I was like playing. I'll tell you, Jeff, after about 5 minutes, I started feeling real sick and I didn't know why. I must have been like 5-6 years old. And I was just like, I felt so bad. I walked in, I was like, I feel terrible. I don't know why I feel terrible. And my dad figured out what it was. you know, they were asking me all these serious questions. They were like, oh my God, what's wrong with our son? And then when they figured out what it was, my parents always had the best reactions. When they found out that I just did something dumb, like kid dumb, that I was going to be fined from, the parent switch turned off. And I don't know if this happens for you, but when you're talking, but the parent switch turns off and they just like literally looked at me and were like, oh my God, you dummy. It's like, don't play with chlorine.
Yeah.
Why would you play with, you're going to be fine. Go lie down. Don't play with chlorine.
Yeah. No, there's definitely that fun moment, that demarcation line between intense parental concern and just mystifying disappointment.
And my dad would be laughing. He'd be like, you dummy. And like my mom wouldn't be laughing, but she'd be like, you're an idiot. And look, when I got old enough to say, I didn't know that. I'm a child. You were supposed to tell me. And the moment I figured out how to say that, those attitudes went away.
Well, that's what's funny about being an adult is that you forget that that certain things are not self-evident to the child. You know, you assume that the thing is obvious to the child. No. The child is an idiot.
Chlorine makes pool clean. Great, cool. Yeah. Hey, soap makes child clean, and I don't have to stay away from the soap. The soap doesn't make me feel sick.
Right. Yeah.
Now, did drinking all of the mouthwash make me feel sick? Yes. But you didn't tell me not to do that either.
You feel like as a parent, it's like it should be obvious that thing should not go up your nose. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you shouldn't stick that thing in any orifice that you have available.
Put marbles up your nose. Put them up there. Do not put them up there. I don't know. That song makes it sound like I really want to put a marble up my nose.
All right, back to salt. So
back to salt. So the children crave the chloride.
They crave the chloride.
Yeah.
No, the chloride makes you go. Blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Well, this is a theory. We haven't figured it out. So in 2013, scientists continued to be fucking with mice and rats.
Right.
And they found out that mustard oil reduced the high salt signal in mouse tongues. So the thing that is ew, yucky, too much salt would get reduced when they used mustard oil on these mice.
Interesting.
But weirdly, that same mustard oil compound also completely eliminated their response to bitter things. So it reduced the icky salt thing, but also was like they couldn't taste bitter stuff. So scientists are like, well, is there some kind of connection between the high salt yuck and the ooh yuck bitter sensations? Are they piggybacking on one another in some way?
This just feels like, what compound can we add to food to trick mice into eating things that are terrible for them?
Correct. Yes.
All right, cool. Just wanted to be sure.
That was the day. That was their goal that day.
That's fun.
So it gets weirder because high salt levels also are connected in some way to sour taste cells. Sour taste cells started responding to high salt levels too. And mice lacking, it means we fucked them up again.
Right.
We took out the ability to sense bitter and sour because we know where those are in the mouth. When we removed their ability to sense bitter and sour, they were also less put off by salt water. They drank it up. They lapped that crap up. It made them horribly ill.
Yeah.
But they would do it because they didn't sense the excess salt that they normally would be put off by. So there's some connection between bitter and sour and high salt. But that raises the question. Why don't super salty things taste bitter and sour? If they're connected, why don't you get if you have a super salty thing, why doesn't it taste bitter or sour? Why doesn't that connection go two ways?
Right.
Well, they think maybe it's because too salty isn't one thing. It's the sum of multiple parts. We don't know. That's the
Okay.
long and short of it is we haven't figured it out yet. But part of the complication of this, as you may have surmised if you thought about it, is that somebody raised their hand in the back of the room and went, we've been doing all this experimenting on mice and rats. What if they don't experience super salty stuff the way we do? What if our knowledge of salt taste in humans is different than the salt taste in mice and rats?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Because
that makes sense. Like,
because even though ENaC, is the same, when we figured out that ENaC in us and ENaC in them is the same. Oh, what if, it doesn't quite work exactly the same across the board? What if the high salt taste thing, it works differently?
right.
Because when we put a an ENoC sodium channel blocker on people, we're like, hey, Gordon, put this on your tongue and then eat this bag of Doritos.
Sure.
It's Cool Ranch.
I'll do anything to eat a bag of Doritos.
Yeah. Sometimes it diminished the salt taste and other times it enhanced it. So it's not exactly a 1-to-1 human to mice comparison with how things work, So there's all these scientists are like, well, we do all these studies on mice and rats thinking we're going to get to the solution. That might not even be the pathway to the solution.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny when you talk about these things that we like, it's weird going back to things that we assume and things that we just know. Like, we do a lot of experiments on rats and mice because they're just, even though they're simpler than we are, a lot of their like brain and nerve stuff is very similar to ours. And so it's like, cool. It's not 1-to-1, but it's pretty 1-to-1. And I think we just sort of like assume that.
Yeah.
And then and then it's so funny that they could even these scientists these researchers could get so far into this research and then go, did we check to make sure this is true?
Yeah. That's the thing is you go, what could possibly be going on here? It's like, well, the entire basis of our study could be flawed. Maybe that. That's possible. Yeah. So one of the theories is that there is some kind of fourth extra subunit.
A fourth meal.
Of ENaC.
A fourth meal, just like Taco Bell thought.
Yeah, exactly. Taco Bell had it right all along.
It was fourth meal.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got to run for that border between knowledge and understanding. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, they call it the delta subunit. That might take place of one of the other pieces of ENaC that is like creating a version of the channel that's less sensitive to the ENaC blocker. There's all these theories, but nobody quite knows what's going on with salt. We kind of feel like we understand the yummy salt thing, which is, really the most important part for marketing.
Mm-hmm.
But the icky ooey, that's too much salt part,
right,
still remains a mystery as to where in the mouth, where in the tongue.
But that's okay because that part doesn't make us money.
Correct.
Knowing when our product is killing somebody doesn't make us money.
No.
Knowing how to make them want it more and more and more and more.
Yeah, there's no part of us that wants us to make people stop eating the thing or desiring the thing.
No.
That's dumb.
It's stupid.
Yeah.
But we don't do. Only do good
Make
part.
More.
Make more.
Add more.
Fourth meal.
Fourth meal. New flavors. Cool Ranch. Make it up.
One day, we have to, and I'll put this out there to the concerned citizens. If anybody knows anyone that's out there, I would love to have a food scientist on the show one day.
Yes.
Somebody who has to discover flavors and how addictive flavors are and how cheap we can make them and what they do to the body. Like, I want to know where blue raspberry came from. If you're somebody who works with volatile blue raspberry ions every day, like, I'd just love to speak to you.
If you're responsible for putting crystals into pancakes, maple syrup crystals.
Yeah.
if you've invented a flavor, if you've tried to turn ice cream into tasting like something that the ice cream has never tasted like before, gosh, we would love to speak to you.
Gosh, why don't you just hit us up? Is all I'm saying. And you can hit us up obviously at our email or on our subreddit, but the best way to hit us up is to donate to us.
It's true. And it's so little to hit us up. It's only $1 a month. $1 a month. $12 in a year. Come on.
Well,
you can do that.
You can hit us up 12 times for that.
Yeah. And you could, then you get access to the Discord. Of course, we'll take more of your money if you've got it. You're making all that crazy money putting crystals into pancakes.
Yeah.
Come on.
You're figuring out what the deal with airline food is. You're Jerry Seinfeld's personal food scientist. If you give a little bit more, you get a little bit more, including bonus episodes, bonus videos, monthly Q&As, all kinds of cool stuff. But yeah, I want to know. I think, Jeff, my hypothesis was correct. I know enough about why we taste salt now. I can walk away.
Is that the big question at the beginning of the episode? You do. You're not curious as to how the icky part works exactly?
Icky part's there. Yeah. And I'm good with the hypothesis of it's probably taste in chloride and going, that's enough chloride for me. I think that's a great hypothesis.
Anthony has always been the scientist that's just like, you know what? I'm fine with the hypothesis. We did all this work to write down our first hypothesis.
I'm the guy in the movie that walks in.
Stick with it.
I kick the door in and I just go, oh my God, guys, we did it. We really did it. We got to go out and celebrate.
That was just our first idea.
Yeah,
that was like the first thing we came up with.
It's a great idea. Let's go. Let's hit the bar.
You have no data
we'll get the data tomorrow. What we have now is the idea. And if you mail an idea to yourself, you own it. Let's head to the bar.
You spent all of our research money on stamps?
Yeah, because now we can protect all the ideas. And also, I just watched that old movie Charade with Audrey Hepburn. One of these stamps could be worth $1 million because that's how stamps work.
Yeah.
So you're welcome for today, really. No, I feel like we do know why we taste salt. We do know why we feel like I'm good on salt. We'd love to know more about these mysterious connections. But like I said, that's for people who care more about this than me, baby.
That's mostly everybody.
Hey, listen up. Good work today, everyone, with the salt thing. We killed a lot of rats.
Oh, we killed so many rats.
We killed a lot of rats. We learned a lot about Cool Ranch Doritos. Let's get the hell out of here.
All right.
Nobody gets paid overtime. We're salary. You know what I mean? That's the kind of scientist I am.
Yeah. Figure out new ways to murder rats.
Hey, we can do that.
That's a tomorrow problem.
That's a tomorrow thing. I like to separate my work from my home life. You may not believe this, but when I go home at night, I don't think about killing a single rat.
What?
Yeah, I don't think about it at all. Listen, I know I'm known as being a pretty good rat killer.
Yeah.
Maybe
I feel like
the best because I don't have any sort of like, once I create my hypothesis, I don't come up with a proper mode of experimentation. So I just kill a lot of rats in a lot of different ways. But then I go home at night and you know what? I clock out. And the moment I punch that card, I go, you know what? I'm not going to think about killing a single rat. This is me time.
Felt like you were the guy that had a lot of rat killing hobbies.
No, listen, I live a rich interior life. It's like when you see school salt out in the world for the first time.
Man, it really shook me up the first time I saw school salt drinking.
Anyway, everybody, that's how salt works.
Mm-hmm.
Get the hell out of here.
Enjoy your week.
We'll see you over on the Discord.